Assalamu alaikum, students. So in today's class, we are going to study about the passages of the Holy Quran. Basically, this is the topic in which most of the students get confused. Okay, what are we supposed to write in part A and in part B? So I am making this video so that you people will be clear that how are we supposed to answer part A and part B of the passages. Today in the class, we are going to discuss theme 1 only, which is Allah in Himself. As I have already told you a lot of times that there are 5 passages under this theme, Allah in Himself, and all 5 passages will talk about Allah's being, that who is Allah. In these 5 passages, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about Himself, that he is one, he is only worthy of worship, he owns the throne, he doesn't belong to any family, or he doesn't have any son or daughters. So all of these attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are discussed under this theme, but in 5 passages. So yes, when students get to answer these passages, so sometimes they get confused. Okay, are we supposed to repeat all of the points in the passages again and again? Like all of the passages will be having the same kind of answer? So yes, the answer is yes. 80% of the answer of all 5 passages will remain the same. But yes, 20% of the answer will be changed, because in all 5 passages, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about some unique attributes as well. For example, let's talk about Ayatul Kursi. This is the first passage of theme Allah in Himself. In Ayatul Kursi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about Himself as an eternal body. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is eternal. He needs no sleep, because it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from all of the human needs. Further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that his are all things in the heavens and on earth. He is the controller of earth and heavens. Okay, then further Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about his knowledge, that he has unchallengeable knowledge. Further, he talks about his throne. As I told you that in every passage, Allah Ta'ala is telling us about an individual attribute. Okay, so the key point or the key attribute of Ayatul Kursi is his throne. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is talking about his throne in Ayatul Kursi. Plus, he's talking about that he doesn't need any sleep. He doesn't feel fatigue. Okay, so like this, every passage has some common points, plus every passage has some individual attributes as well. Here students get confused. Okay, are we supposed to answer part A first or part B first? So the proper way of answering this question is that you are going to answer part A of all of the passages together. For example, in paper, if there are 4 passages out of 4, 3 passages out of 3, you are supposed to do any 2 passages, right? So for both of the passages, part A will be done together, and for both of the passages, part B will be done together. Okay, so now, as this is just an overview of the theme, so I have made some key points for you all, which will make it clear that 80% of the content in part A will remain the same, but what is the point of individuality between these uh, passages? Okay, so in Ayatul Kursi, first thing which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about is his throne. Whenever you see the translation of Ayatul Kursi, you should know that as Muslim, we all know the Arabic of Ayatul Kursi. But when it comes with a lot of passages, so maybe sometimes the students will get confused. So they should look at the keywords of the passages to identify them. Because if you are identifying it wrong, in the wrong way, it means that you are going to write the wrong themes as well. Okay, so to identify Ayatul Kursi, the key words are his throne, sleep, and fatigue. In Ayatul Kursi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about many of his attributes with these 3. Okay, Now, the second passage, which is taken from Surah Al-An'am, remember that in from Surah Al-An'am there are two passages taken. Okay, so the the verses which were talking about Allah's attribute, we have put them in first theme, which is Allah in Himself, and the verses which will talk about something else, so they belong to the next themes. So do not get confused. Surah Al-An'am, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about that he doesn't belong to any family. The word consort is there in the English translation. Whenever you are getting the passages with four or five or six more passages, you need to look at this word consort. If you find this word consort in the English translation, so you should get an idea that this belongs to the Surah Al-An'am, right? Consort means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have any family. Now, next is Surah Fusilat. The point of individuality of Surah Fusilat is Allah's sign. In this passage, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about his signs: sun, moon, day, and night. These all keywords are given in the English translation of the passages. Once you will look at the English translation of the passages, you will find these keywords. And you should get an idea that, okay, if the keywords are there, it means that you are supposed to write down the keywords. You are supposed to explain the keywords. Okay, I'm repeating myself that 80% of the content will remain the same among all of the passages. Like in all of the passages, Allah Ta'ala is talking about his power, his knowledge, his tawheed, his oneness. Along with these themes, you need to write down the themes which are given only in the particular passage. I hope I'm making myself clear. Now let's talk about Surah Shura. In Surah Shura, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about his knowledge, his power, his being, his oneness, along with the theme that angels celebrate the praise and praises their Lord. Means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that my angels also praise me. So the word angels is the key word here in this passage. If you are writing all of the themes like about Allah's power, Allah's uniqueness, Allah's knowledge, but you are missing out on this key word, angels celebrate the praises of their Lord, it means that you are going to get less marks because you are failed to discuss the main themes, right? Now, let's talk about Surah Ikhlas. Surah Ikhlas is very similar as Ayatul Kursi or as Al-An'am, Surah Al-An'am, because in this Allah Ta'ala is telling us that I have no family, no sons and daughters. But in which words Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is telling us these things? He has used that Allah does not beget. Beget means that someone who reproduce. Okay. So in Surah Ikhlas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, is clearly mentioning that I am not the one who is going to have a family. I'm free from this. Okay. So these are the five themes of the passage, of theme one, Allah in Himself. And I have mentioned the key words as well. Now, what you have to do, you have to practice that. Just look at the English translation of the passages, underline all of the keywords, and try to elaborate all of the keywords in at least one or two sentences. This is how we answer part one. If you cannot memorize it well, so this is a tip for you to write down part A of the passages. Read the English translation, underline the keywords, and then elaborate each and every keyword in at least one or two lines, having a quotation or a reference in it. Okay. Now let's talk about part B. That how are we supposed to answer part B? Many of the students do this mistake that they just mention the themes again in part B. For example, if we are talking about Surah Fusilat, so many of the students do this mistake that they talk about Allah's signs in part B as well. It is wrong. Part B is only about the importance of the themes. For example, um, in Ayatul Kursi, Allah Ta'ala is telling us about that I am one and I have the unchallengeable knowledge, right? So how does this make your life different from a non-Muslim? As a believer, if I believe in the words of Ayatul Kursi, so how is it changing my life? This is what are we supposed to write in part B. In part B, we are not supposed to write down the themes. We can mention the themes. For example, in Ayatul Kursi, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala declares that He holds unlimited knowledge, which makes the Muslims free from all of the worries. Okay, this is how we answer part B. If you are writing the themes again and again, you will not get any mark. Okay, so this is how we answer part A and part B. I hope I have made it very clear to write down like what are the points should go in part A and what are the points should go in part B. So do practice again and again, write down the themes and the importance of the themes again. Okay, Jazakallah.